Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Weekly Waypoint. Today we are back in Forza Horizon 5, which might raise a few eyebrows, and I'll explain. First of all, this is not the Game Pass version of the game that I was playing. I'm not playing it on Xbox, I'm not playing it on Xbox for PC. I picked it up on Steam. Which does mean that I am playing on a new account because there's no cross progression, which is a little surprising, but honestly I don't actually mind that much because it, much like with ESO returning to PC, which is what I talked about last week, it just kind of means I get to do it all again, and it's a fun game that I really enjoy playing, so I enjoy collecting the cars, and I actually honestly might enjoy this more than just returning to my save profile where I already have kind of a ton of stuff and I've already completed a ton of stuff. So yeah, I'm cool with this, and I'm cool with the idea of building a profile from scratch that's gonna be like mine to play whenever the hell I want, instead of worrying about whether I'm subscribed to the ever-increasing prices of Game Pass or not. Now, the other eyebrow that might be raised is that, yeah, I've been criticizing Microslop a lot lately, and rightly so. I still have all of those criticisms and all of those beliefs, and I do limit my spending with them because I don't want to fund their particular endeavors. And so that's why I'm not subscribed to Game Pass anymore, why I don't really play on Xbox anymore. But I kind of give like Blizzard games a pass because I'm a big World of Warcraft gamer and I have to sub to that game to play it, right? I kind of give Bethesda games a pass because I love Bethesda games so much, obviously with ESO and stuff. And I feel like the only other studio I'm going to give that pass to is Playground Games because, oh boy, we're going to talk about that showcase later, but it was pretty good. Everyone has their own balance to strike with how they want to like try and not reward corporations, but also like support developers and enjoy the games that they want to enjoy in this world, which is not necessarily the most fun place to exist recently. And so, you know, how helpful is it to deprive yourself of a thing that you enjoy in a world which is steadily growing darker and you need for good things in your life, you know what I mean? And so after much thinking and much deliberating, yeah, I decided to pick this up, and that's all I'll say about that. But yeah, Forza Horizon 5, not my favourite game in the series, that's probably 4, but I do still really enjoy it, and I am pleasantly surprised at how well this runs on my PC. I have a 3060, so it's not the most powerful card in the world, but I guess this game did come out in 2021, where the 3060 was considered to be a bit more higher end in terms of power. So I shouldn't be so surprised at how well it runs, but it just, this is the highest settings. It just automatically set it to extreme, and yeah, it just runs perfectly at 60 frames a second. There's like the odd hitch, but I think that's more to do with the fact that it's installed on my external SSD, so there's a kind of a bottleneck. But it's like the tiniest of hitches, like very, very rarely, so I don't mind. However, I should talk about the fact that I took about an hour and a half of troubleshooting to get this game up and running properly, because while I can play this game, and oh, I should also mention before we get too far away from it, it does take about 1 minute to load in between like races and stuff, because it's installed on my external SSD. I was worried about it taking longer though, so I'm kind of okay with it. And it does have to be installed there because it is 176 gigabytes of game. But anyway, sorry, back to the problems. It wasn't connecting to the internet properly. It was weird, like I could log into my Xbox account, that's not the problem I had. Some people have left negative reviews citing that as being a problem. No, that's fine for me. But I could play the game, but none of the drivatars had names. Like, it would just save a level above their head, and then there would just be a blank space where the nameplate should be. And it was like a really thin, like, small square nameplate. And whenever I tried to connect to online, it just spun forever, in terms of like, oh, we're currently trying to find your Horizon Life server, or whatever. Or it would tell me I was on a Horizon Life online server, but there would be no other players or anything. And I was getting concerned because I could not figure out how to make this work properly, and after 2 hours, your chances of getting a refund are very, very low. But I want the game to work properly. If it's not going to work properly, I don't want to have spent the money on the game, you know how it goes. Turns out, I remembered having similar issues, not these particular issues, but similar issues with online functionality in this game back when I was playing it on Game Pass. I think I did play it on PC for a little bit, and I was having issues with it, and I just had to update Windows. So lo and behold, I updated Windows, took a while, and it's fine now. So yeah, for some reason Forza Horizon 5 is a game that requires Windows to be on its most recent version before it lets you play the game, but it won't tell you that. There is nothing which will tell you that that's why it's not working properly. You just need to update Windows, and it sucks because Windows updates frequently break things and introduce features that we do not want. So yeah, that was the solution. Anyway, that's Forza Horizon 5. We've talked about this game before, how much I love the Forza Horizon series, how much I enjoy this game. Shall we now talk about the Xbox Developer Direct, which occurred between the last Waypoint and this one, which I honestly initially forgot about because I am in a different place, right, with gaming compared to last year. Last year, I was so excited for the Developer Direct. I was invested. I was speculating about it. I couldn't wait for it to occur. This time around, I forgot it happened until like late into the evening, and I was like, oh, I should probably go and watch that because it's got Forza in it. That just goes to show you where my head's at with Microsoft and how much they've lost me over the course of a year, but we've talked about that before, so we'll skim past that. I decided, yeah, sure, I'll watch the whole thing, why not? And first of all, Forza Horizon 6. I'm not going to do the thing everyone's doing where they're going, it's set in Japan, because they announced this months ago. To be fair, they announced it quite quietly, with very little fanfare, which was a bit surprising considering how much of a requested feature it is. But yeah, I already knew it was going to be in Japan. But did it look good? I was a little concerned because I know the project lead for Forza Horizon 4 and 5 left to form a new company and took some top talent with him. So I was like, how's that going to affect the future of the Forza franchise? And turns out it's doing just fine. Forza Horizon 6 looks incredible. First of all, obviously, Japan looks so good. It looks so nice, and I'm very excited for it. It's obviously a location I've wanted to go for a long time in this game. I was surprised that we went to Mexico before Japan, but I was cool with it because this game is gorgeous and Mexico is a fun place to visit in a Horizon game as well. But Japan is going to be more my bag, and I'm so excited to go there in a Forza game. Another thing I'm really excited about, they're focusing on a progression. So as you can see right now on the screen, I am very early in this save file, and I already have some really, really good cars. And you start this game as the superstar of the Horizon Festival and all this stuff. And this is something that I did feel about 5. It's the case in 3 and 4 as well, but it's more prevalent in 5 of just like, oh, they don't care about you having a journey from like rags to riches kind of thing. They just flood you with it right at the start. That's not what this game series is about, and I kind of miss that out of my open world racing games. And that is something that they're going back to in Forza Horizon 6. You start as a rookie, you're trying to get into the Horizon Festival, and you're going to start with some crummy cars, and I love that so much. I'm really glad that they actually addressed that, because I didn't think they were going to. I just thought that's, that's not what the Horizon series was about, so yeah, I'm very excited that they're doing that. I still expect, you'll get cars quite quickly, and you'll probably end up with your first hypercar like a few hours into the game, if not sooner. But I do like at least the attempt to be like, okay, let's start you from the ground up. And maybe they're doing that because they're in Japan, and Japan has kind of like this JDM, culture, and like a lot of that stuff, people's fondness for it was built in like the Need for Speed Underground games here in the West, and like those games are games where you start off with a crummy car and you build your way up to the top, so maybe that's why they made that decision. That'd be kind of fun to hear if that is why. Don't get me wrong, I don't think they're trying to be Need for Speed Underground. They don't need to be. They're Forza Horizon, and it's very clearly a Forza Horizon game, but that could still be something that influenced them. And then also they're expanding like the player housing system, because right now it's just you buy a house, and it's just the screen you look at, basically where your car sits, and where you start, your starting point in the map on the game. In the next one, they're making it so that you can actually customize the inside of your home, and you can have a garage. I don't know why I said garage. You can have a garage where you have cars that you showcase on display, and your friends can visit your garage and see your showcased cars, which I think is something that they're taking cues from the Crew Motorfest for. Because in the Crew Motorfest, while you don't necessarily have like an apartment or a place like you do in the Crew 2, I've just realized that's missing, you do have like the festival where everyone in the lobby, like they will have a car, like a showcase car that they can put up for other people to see, so that they can show off their like designs and liveries and stuff like that. So I think that's probably where they took their cue from there. There's also like an area, like an estate I think they called it, where you can kind of freeform build using objects and stuff. And I think this is an evolution of the weird little island area they've got in 5, where players can generate their own kind of user-created content, and that's pretty cool as well. I can't see myself messing around with that too much, but it's cool that it's in there. And it's more of like a diegetic part of a game. I've been using the word diegetic lately, and I'm never sure if I'm using it right. It's intended to be used for music, but anyway, that's not all that was shown in the developer direct. It's all I thought I would care about, but as it turns out, Fable looks incredible. Holy shit. I had very, very low expectations for Fable, and I guess I shouldn't have because it's Playground Games, but you know, they do Forza. It's a very different kind of game, apart from like the open world stuff, I suppose. And it's not that I had a problem with like what they had showed previously or anything, it's just that it'd been a while, and again, Microsoft have been shutting down game studios and breaking promises left and right and cancelling projects left and right, and honestly I thought Fable was either done for, or perhaps, you know, jumping the gun a bit to say development hell, because it hasn't been in development for that long, or since announcement at least. But we just hadn't heard much about it, and my general sentiment towards Microsoft meant that, yeah, I was cynical about it. So I was very delighted to see them unveil the game, and it just looks so good. Like, first of all, visually it's very striking. I've seen some people say they don't love the more realistic art style they've gone for. I can see that, but it is still very bright and colourful, and I do enjoy that. Also, I should mention, I've never really played the Fable series before, so this is definitely the perspective of someone coming into the series with this game if they do get it. I've played some of Fable Anniversary, but I've never really got stuck into the game properly. I did like what I played of it, and I would have loved it if I'd played it in its time, but I think it's one of those games that has aged a bit, and yeah, it's not like aged a bit in terms of it feels clunky or anything like that. It's just there are other games where I've already kind of experienced similar ideas to what Fable did first, you know what I mean? But yeah, this new Fable game just looks gorgeous, and the gameplay looks pretty fun. I think the combat is the only thing that's maybe go, oh, I don't know about that. We'll have to see how that feels, much like Avowed, and I ended up not really liking the combat in Avowed. But everything else, I love the towns walking through. I love that every NPC has their own name, and they're all simulated, and they all go about their own lives. It almost feels like an evolution of the formula that Bethesda set up with Oblivion and Skyrim and Fallout and all that stuff, with the, you know, what do they call it, like Radiant quest lines and like all that stuff. I don't know if there's quests associated to this, but you know, I love that the townsfolk all have their own kind of worldview, and they will all form opinions of you based on who you are, more than just good or bad, or good or evil, or black and white and stuff, but like, you know, how do you treat people in terms of this situation? Like, are you rich? They're gonna form preconceived notions about you if you're rich. And I love at one point they hover over a person that says so-and-so thinks you're a rich twat. The humor seems fun. Yeah, I'm really interested in Fable actually. I was so surprised at my level of interest for that game. It's up there now. And thankfully it's made by Playground Games, so guilt-free interest. Not guilt-free, but you know what I mean. Like, I've already got over that. Also, Game Freak showed off their game called Beast of Reincarnation, which I also had surprisingly positive feelings about. Less in terms of like, I really want to play this game, but more in terms of like, good for them. You know, good for them. This isn't Game Freak's first time making a game that isn't Pokemon or that isn't Nintendo exclusive, I think. But it's probably their biggest, and I gotta say, it looks good. It has an interesting premise in terms of like, you know, there are some people saying we're getting so many like third-person action samurai games at the minute, and yeah, that is true, and that is unfortunate. But this one is set in like a far future post-apocalyptic Japan, and I think that does set it apart a bit. That is an interesting idea. And then also, I really like how you can kind of see the through line of like what they've learned with Pokemon and the kind of games they like to make applied to this genre. Like, you have this animal companion who learns moves and fights alongside you, but obviously it's not a creature collecting game, it's not a Pokemon game by any means, but you can kind of see like the developer intent of like, oh well, this worked in our previous projects, and so we can kind of apply it in a different way to this one, and I really love seeing that. I don't know why, it's just something I've always enjoyed, like seeing like a development team doing something different, but also like seeing that it's from them based on the design choices they make, you know what I mean? And as the devs were talking, you know, it was such a different style of like interview or presentation from them that we've ever seen before, because it's not Nintendo centric, and so we got to kind of hear from more developers within the team, and like they got to be a bit less wooden in how they were talking about things, and they seemed legitimately so excited to be working on this game, and their love of like Pokemon and also making something that isn't Pokemon shines through. And I really hope that it comes out and is received well, and yeah, I'm happy for them. I think that game looks cool. I think people should check it out. Not sure if it's for me, but I could see myself picking it up down the road on a sale to check it out maybe. Also, Double Fine announced a game which in, you know, Double Fine fashion is very weird and quirky. It's a multiplayer game about forming clay pots of whatever shape you would like and fighting, basically. And different generic shapes, or like different styles of shapes of pots, have different abilities. It's kind of a hero shooter, a little bit. I can't see myself playing this. I'm not a huge Double Fine guy, but I always like seeing what they've made because it's very quirky and fun. That game was called Kiln, by the way, if that sounds interesting to you. But yeah, I was a little surprised by probably my favorite developer direct that they've ever done. And I was reminded that, you know, it's a multifaceted situation. On the one hand, you have Microsoft redirecting a lot of resources to AI and killing off like development studios to fund it, and that's like vehemently not cool. But on the other side, you still have these amazing development studios making these amazing games that I'm interested in. So yeah, it's an interesting one for sure. But that was that showcase, and now to touch on what I've been playing this week. It's mostly been the Elder Scrolls Online, not gonna lie. You may have seen the video I put up yesterday of me just kind of like running around a game and doing a whole bunch of different stuff. There's currently a PvP event on called White Strake's Mayhem, but you don't have to do direct PvP to get rewards from it. You can enter Cyrodiil, which is, you know, if you've ever played Guild Wars 2 and know what World versus World is, it's basically that. But if you haven't played that, and that's not helpful, think Battlefield, right? It's this giant zone with multiple objectives, and it's a freeway fight. This is between the 3 different alliances. And, you know, people group together and storm various keeps and try to take them over and paint the map, you know, their faction's colour and stuff like that. But it's also PvE. There's also, like, the usual assortment of, you know, towns and quests and dungeons. Or not dungeons, but, like, delves and, like, sky shards to find and stuff like that. And it's really interesting because when I started playing ESO all those years ago, I hated the concept of Cyrodiil because it had all these PvE things in it I wanted to do. And it was also a part of Elder Scrolls world that I wanted to see, but it was mired by the fact that it was a PvP thing. And I didn't want to get ganked in the middle of, like, doing quests and stuff. I used to kind of, like, be genuinely fearful of setting foot there because I didn't want to get ganked and killed and stuff. I think what happened in the intervening years is I got into Fortnite for a little while, and I got used to the concept of you can be trying to do these almost PvE objectives, right, if you're thinking of a battle pass in that game, in the open world, and then you can end up being interrupted by PvP. And that's fine, that's fun. And so there are these towns that can be taken by various factions, and there are these daily quests in these towns, and you can just do like these town quests of going out and killing like Dramora or whatever, or picking up cloves for like refugees and survivors and stuff. You could be doing these daily quests, and that can go off without a hitch, and you can just do a bunch of them and get like the event boxes out of doing them and stuff, and it'll be fine. Or your town can be attacked, and you can find yourself, I'm just going to try and defend the town. I'm not very good at PvP, but, you know, I'm in like a fairly beginner-friendly PvP instance of like, you know, champion points aren't accounted for and stuff like that, so everyone's on a pretty even playing field. You know, I'm still not built for PvP. I'm still at a disadvantage because I don't have the right skills and the right armor set and stuff, but it's more of a level playing field. And so I'm like, well, I'll just try and defend this town so that I can continue to do these quests. It's not the end of the world if I fail. You know, I know this is something that can happen. And what I ended up doing was defending the town And it ended up being really fun getting into these little skirmishes with people, and I would actually win some of them, and it felt really good. I think this is the only kind of PvP I'm interested in from an MMO, you know, because it's almost like an MMO specific experience. I don't care about battlegrounds or anything like that. If I want to do that, I can play a game like Overwatch or Quake Champions, like, and that's better built for it, you know. But something like World vs. World in Guild Wars 2 or Cyrodiil in ESO is quite a unique experience that really does levy the best parts of the MMO genre. It's, you know, one of the reasons I wanted to get into World of Warcraft for the very first time all those years ago is because I was reading about world PvP, and I don't do world PvP in World of Warcraft, I kind of hate it. But before I knew I would hate it, I loved the idea of like this giant world to quest around in, and then just like kind of dynamically having these giant fights against the opposing faction, and like, you know, ending up in these giant battles with other players, and like this emergent experience. Turns out it's more like you're just trying to do your questing and you get ganked by a rogue, but the fantasy ended up kind of being executed better in games like Elder Scrolls Online and Guild Wars 2. I think WoW should look into that. I think it could be pretty cool. I mean, they have epic battlegrounds, but it's not the same. So yeah, I guess what I would say is PvP, or at least the Cyrodiil style of PvP, is a bit like mayonnaise, right? Or mustard. I would never ask for it. I would never seek it out. But when it just kind of happens to emerge as a part of my gameplay, and I know that it's going to be there, this metaphor's kind of falling apart, I'm cool with it, you know? I'm never going to ask for mayonnaise, I'm never going to ask for mustard, but when it's given to me, when it's part of the food or the dish that I've ordered, and I'm eating it, I'm like, yeah, this is kind of a vibe, I'm down with this. And I've been doing a whole other bunch of stuff in ESO, you can go check out the video if you're curious, but I'm a little all over the place in that game right now, but just recently, this won't be in the video because this is after that, but I've been working on Ebonheart Pact Zone completion. So I've done Stonefalls and Deshaan so far, and it's a good time. Feels very good to be back in ESO on PC on my main account, much like it feels very good to be having my own copy of Forza Horizon 5 on PC and, you know, not being beholden to just the Xbox Game Pass subscription and their increasing prices. But that isn't all I played this week. 2 more driving/racing games. First of all, I continued to play some Super Woden GP, which I talked about last week. That will be a weekly Waypoint background footage game at some point, I promise, but stuff just keeps coming up. Isometric, retro-style indie racing game for anyone interested. Very Gran Turismo coded. Oh, that reminds me, I should mention I actually picked up the double pack, so I have Forza Motorsport as well, but I can't have both those games installed at the same time, they're giant. But the other game that I picked up this week, which I was gonna do the main topic of a weekly Waypoint about before Forza rudely interrupted, is an indie game called Motor Town Behind a Wheel. And if you've ever wanted to like play GTA but without the crime, like you know when you like get a bus in GTA and you drive around and like pretend to pick up people, or you do pick up people depending on the game, I guess. I think you can. This is that as a game. It's all things driving. You can be a delivery driver like Euro Truck Simulator style. You can, you know, like be roadside assistants and drive like a winch operating machine or whatever they're called. You could be a taxi driver, a bus driver. You could be a, you know, you can chase down criminals as the police later on. You can also be a getaway driver. There's all sorts of stuff, but it's one of those games where in most disciplines you're supposed to respect road rules and like remain under a certain miles per hour limit and like follow your GPS, and I don't know if you get punished for not indicating, but you can indicate and stuff like that. And it's a really good time. Literally, a friend bought this game and I was like, what the hell is this? And I clicked at it and I looked at it and I was like, I need this game. I tried the demo first, okay, to be fair, but like after an hour and a half of the demo, I was like, I'm just gonna get a full game because I like this. It's gonna be perfect for like listening to podcasts and audiobooks, I think. I'll probably show that off in a future week as well. But that's gonna do it for this week. Thanks for watching. Leave a like if you liked the video, and I'll catch you in whatever I make next.